Hey guys, this is Dave with Audio In. Today we're going to be taking a look at the BQEYZ Winter Ultra. Now, I've only owned the Spring 2 and the Summer, so I am somewhat familiar with their products, but I haven't heard the original Winter, so I can't really compare this with that. But what I can do is compare it with other IEMs I have heard in this price range, and also try and kind of determine where I think it lands in terms of overall value and performance. But first, let's go over what's included in the box with the Winter Ultras. And I'm not going to be doing a full unboxing because I already did recently release one of those. I'll make sure and link that in the description. But this is what is included in the package with the Winter Ultras. Of course, we have the IEMs and cable itself. It's a modular cable. It comes with a 3.5 and a 4.4 adapter. We have a very nice assortment of tips, a great case, and a cleaning tool, and a little bit of paperwork that comes with that as well. As for the price, specifications, and design, the Winter Ultra comes in at $269. It has a hybrid driver configuration consisting of one full-range 12mm dynamic driver plus one bone conduction driver that's designed to actually enhance the high frequencies of the dynamic driver. The drivers are housed in a 5-axis CNC machined aluminum shell, which looks and feels quite robust, but they are still really light and have a very comfortable fit. They're very easy to drive with an impedance of 38 ohms and a sensitivity of 114 dB, so you can easily power them with most any device that has a headphone output. In regards to the design and color, I have to say, pictures don't really do it justice. This blue color is very striking, and combined with the curves and the contours of the faceplate, when the light strikes the shells just right, they look simply stunning. The cable quality is also really good. It doesn't tangle too easily. It's easy to wrap up and store. It's modular, so it comes with both, again, a 3.5 and a 4.4 interchangeable termination. The case is also pretty good. It's just a basic case, but it is protective and it offers enough space to easily store the IEMs and some extra tips. Okay, let's talk about the sound of the Winter Ultra. So again, this utilizes a 12mm dynamic driver in combination with a high frequency bone conduction driver. And typically with bone conduction IEMs, fit is important because you want to make sure the inner part of the shell is coming in contact with your ear. And I do feel that I was able to get them to actually fit and sit just right in my ear. So the fit is actually really good with these. But in regards to the overall sound presentation of the Winter Ultra, I would say it's neutral, but with some upper mid and treble forwardness. So its presentation is going to lean heavier towards the top and a little lighter on the low end. And if you look a little closer, starting with the bass tuning is somewhat neutral, but with a more bass and mid-bass focus and some sub-bass roll-off. So while it doesn't necessarily have as much sub-bass presence as I normally like to hear, it does still have some. My only issue is usually those sub-bass frequencies can really help to support the rest of the bass frequencies, especially if the bass presentation is already leaning a little light, and that's definitely the case here in my opinion. But what it does offer is really good dynamics, impact, and mid-bass thump. And then as you move into the lower mids, I am getting some warmth and maybe even a little bit of bass bleed. So the transition from the mid-bass into the lower mids isn't the cleanest I've heard, and it is lacking a little in terms of lower mid clarity. But what you do get is some much needed note weight and richness that helps to offset some of that upper mid forwardness. So instruments and vocals do really benefit from the additional lower mid warmth. And then as you move into the mid range, it does give you good mid-range detail. Instruments and vocals are also presented fairly naturally, but as you move into the upper mids, again, there does seem to be a little more upper mid presence or ear gain forwardness than I prefer. And while again, everything sounds natural, some instruments and vocals can be pushed a little too far forward in the mix. As for the treble, it's also quite natural sounding and has good detail, at least in the lower treble. However, I do feel like the micro details are lacking a little bit for this price range, but it's still decent and really not anything that's distracting. But again, at this price, I would expect it to be just a little bit better. There is also decent upper treble presence, and while I do wish it had a little more air and sparkle, it's still adequate. So when I'm listening to tracks that have a little more of that air and atmosphere, I do feel like I'm hearing it. Again, I just wish it had a little bit more. The technicalities of the Winter are also pretty good. Again, I do feel like the micro details in the upper treble are lacking a little, and also in the transition from the mid bass to the lower mids, but the upper mid and mid treble details are much better. My only issue is, again, for this price, there is better out there. Soundstage is about average for an IEM. Imaging is good, and for the most part, instruments and vocals sound focused. Forward layering could be a little better, but it's still okay. But where does the Winter Ultra stand in terms of the competition? Well, I wanted to compare it to some IEMs that are priced about the same, but also with some that cost a little bit more, like the Blessing 3, but also some that cost a little less, like the Tantiem Kara. And the IEMs I compared it to were the new Dunu Falcon Ultra, Dunu Talos, Blessing 3, Performer 5, Yume Ultra, Yume 2, and again the Tantiem Kara, and a few others. And I can't take the time to run down the whole list, but I don't feel like the Winter Ultra can keep up with some of the better IEMs within the $200 to $300 price range, like the Falcon Ultra or even the Performer 5. I felt like its overall performance was closer to the performance levels of, say, the Dunu Talos, Yume 2, and the Kara. That being said, I did enjoy the Winter Ultra with certain genres like acoustic jazz, and there were also lots of vocal tracks I feel like it did quite well with, so it could work with some libraries. I also felt like it did okay with some classic rock because of the way the bass is tuned, which of course is having a more mid-bass focused tuning. But again, I do feel like the bass was a little overpowered by the upper mids and treble. So the Winter Ultra is kind of a mixed bag for me. I would just recommend taking a close look at your library and base your decision on that. But before I conclude this review, I feel like, again, I should just point out one more time that the build quality and design is excellent at this price, and these really are very beautiful IEMs. But again, just kind of take into consideration, I do recommend this if your library consists of acoustic jazz, you've got some vocal stuff, and I would say even classical. I did listen to some classical with these, and stringed instruments did sound pretty good with these. But again, the bottom line, I do feel there are better IEMs out there in this price range. So that concludes my review of the BQEYZ Winter Ultra. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch. If you like my content, please take a second and hit that subscribe button. Also, if you would please like this video, please share this video. I hope you have an awesome day.